They say the galaxy is full of mysteries, ancient civilizations, lost technologies, worlds that burn with impossible light. But no one expected humanity's legacy to begin in a kitchen. No one thought the spark that would ignite 1,000 worlds would come from a single bite of food. It started with a professor, a scientist who saw a plant so dangerous. He called for an intergalactic emergency, and a human who looked at that same plant, smiled, and said, "We call that seasoning." What happened next changed the galaxy forever. A story of fear, curiosity, and flavor. A story of pain turned into power. The day the galaxy tasted fire. They say wars start with blood. Revolutions start with belief. But the day the galaxy nearly burned started with a chicken wing. Professor Zixthar had never felt humiliation before. Not until the Galactic Botanical Summit of Cycle 4032. Not until the humans arrived. He replayed the footage for the 1,000th time. A human woman, Elsa Martinez, biting into a buffalo wing. Her face flushed red. Steam rose from her mouth. And she smiled. Zixthar's crystalline skin dimmed with shame. He had called an intergalactic emergency to warn the galaxy of a plant that humans deep-fried and served with ranch dressing. His inbox was chaos. Messages flashing from across the stars. Mockery. Curiosity. Confusion. "Nice meltdown, Professor. So humans eat biohazards now? Death World cuisine merch dropping soon." Zixthar sighed. He had become a meme. 7 billion views and counting. Across the galaxy, news anchors tried to sound calm. A blue-scaled Thraxian trembled on screen. In today's top story, humans have confirmed they voluntarily eat a chemical irritant called capsaicin. They call it hot sauce. The galaxy panicked. Medical shuttles raced to treat spice exposure. Alien chefs collapsed mid-broadcast. And humans, they just laughed. Zixthar sat alone in his lab, his reflection dull and fractured. He recorded his resignation message. To the Velconian Science Authority, he said, "I hereby accept responsibility for misjudging Earth flora. I underestimated the human digestive system and perhaps the human spirit." He stopped recording. Outside his viewport, Earth hung like a glowing ember in the void. His assistant drone, Jixin, floated beside him. "Professor," it chirped, "the Council demands a retraction." Zixthar's tone sharpened. "A retraction? They say I'm wrong." Jixin beeped nervously. "They say your comments were culinarily insensitive." Zixthar's glass-like fingers trembled. "Insensitive?" I watched a human ingest a bio-incendiary. Their eyes leaked fluid. Their mouth emitted steam. And they smiled. Silence. Then softer. They smiled. Across the stars, the footage became legend. Reaction videos. Challenges. Memes. Spicy or die. Can you survive human sauce? The galaxy wasn't afraid anymore. It was entertained. Zixthar buried himself in work, trying to escape the madness. But then Jixin projected another broadcast. "Breaking news," the anchor said. "The Galactic Culinary Council suspends human food imports. Humanity responds by inviting everyone to dinner." Zixthar froze. "They're doubling down," he whispered. Jixin beeped. "They're inviting the galaxy to dinner." "Oh, stars preserve us," Zixthar muttered. He turned to the small plant on his desk, a gift from the summit. Capsicum annuum. The plant that started it all. He touched a leaf. It tingled against his crystalline skin. "They cultivate poison," he murmured. "And call it flavor." Jixin beeped again. New alerts flashed across the holographic map. Spice bans. Black markets. Cooking channels tripling in views. Zixthar stared at Earth's glowing red icon. "This is no longer science," he said quietly. "It's contagion." He leaned closer to the hologram. "And we've unleashed something far more dangerous than a toxin." A pause. "We've unleashed curiosity. And curiosity, in the wrong hands or mouths, can burn worlds." The galaxy could not stop talking about the humans. Every broadcast, every data stream, every conversation across 12 sectors. All of them carried the same question. What else can the humans eat? Within a week, the panic had spread to 3-star systems. Governments met in emergency sessions. Trade routes froze. And restaurants began hanging signs that read, "No human food allowed." On the news grid, a Thraxian anchor struggled to stay composed. Reports confirm that humans consume lethal quantities of capsaicin for pleasure. Authorities are now questioning what other substances these creatures consider edible. Rumors followed faster than light. Some claimed humans drank fermented poison and called it wine. Others said they swallowed liquid stimulants every morning just to wake up. And the strangest rumor of all, that humans took pride in surviving their own food. Zixthar sat before the holographic feeds, unable to look away. It had gone far beyond science now. He whispered, "They are being treated like a contagion. And yet they smile through the fire." Jixin floated beside him, projecting new alerts. Interstellar shipping companies are classifying all human food as controlled substances. Entire colonies are banning imports. Zixthar asked quietly, "Do the humans protest?" Jixin hesitated. "They have started a marketing campaign instead." The professor turned slowly. "Marketing?" The feed changed to a bright logo that burned across the screen. Spice Corp Interstellar. Survive the sauce. Human voices shouted over pounding music. Join the Intergalactic Heat Challenge. Finish a plate of wings, win your meal, and your pride. Zixthar's jaw hung open. They made it a competition. The first challenger was a Corvallian war veteran named Thorak Ven. He was famous for surviving acid storms and radiation burns. If anyone could face human food, it was him. Billions tuned in. Zixthar watched from his lab as the alien dipped a wing into glowing red sauce. Thorak took one bite, then another. For a moment, silence. Then his exoskeleton shifted color. His mandibles twitched. He coughed once, bowed politely, and vanished in a flash of light. The crowd erupted in cheers. Ratings shattered records. Across the galaxy, beings laughed, cried, and screamed in fascination. Some swore it was proof that humans were monsters. Others said it was proof they were gods of flavor. Zixthar whispered, "They have turned terror into entertainment." Over the following weeks, the phenomenon grew. Human restaurants appeared on orbital stations. Tourists lined up for selfies beside hazard signs. Everywhere, red sauce glowed like molten gold. The professor watched the chaos unfold. He began collecting data, searching for patterns. There was one constant. Every being who tried human spice described the same thing: pain, followed by exhilaration. He replayed an interview with a Zoltari researcher. "We thought they were exaggerating," the alien said. "But then we tried it. It was agony. And it was beautiful." Zixthar leaned back in his chair, deep in thought. He spoke softly to Jixin. "Perhaps we have been wrong about them. They do not avoid pain. They refine it." Jixin beeped uncertainly. "Professor, the council wants your testimony. They say you started this." Zixthar laughed bitterly. "Started this? No, Jixin. The humans started it the moment they learned to season fire." He stood and stared at the small plant on his desk, its leaves trembling under artificial light. "Capsicum annuum, the forbidden fruit of Earth." He whispered. "They eat what should destroy them, and they thrive." Reports continued to flood in. On Thraxia Prime, a group of soldiers held a hot sauce drinking contest. On Corvallia, religious leaders declared peppers a sacred symbol of endurance. And on Velcon Prime, young scholars began smuggling pepper seeds into their labs. Zixthar felt something stir in his crystalline chest. It was not fear. It was admiration. He turned to Jixin. "Prepare a travel request. We are going to Earth." Jixin beeped in alarm. "Professor, you cannot. It's a death world." Zixthar smiled faintly. "Exactly." He looked once more at the news feeds filled with chaos, laughter, and glowing bottles of sauce. The galaxy was burning with curiosity, and he intended to walk straight into the flame. Zixthar arrived on Earth under a gray sky that smelled of rain and distant smoke. The air felt heavy, alive, almost aggressive. He stepped out of the shuttle, sensors flickering wildly. Oxygen levels toxic by Velconian standards. Microbial life dense enough to form colonies in a single breath. And yet, humans thrived here. Elsa Martinez waited at the terminal with 2 steaming cups in her hands. She smiled like the sun breaking through a storm. "Welcome to Earth, Professor. Want a latte?" Zixthar hesitated. "Does it contain toxins?" "Only caffeine," she said with a shrug. Caffeine. He had read about it. A psychoactive stimulant, technically poisonous in high doses. He took a careful sip. It was hot. Too hot. His crystalline tongue tingled, then burned, then relaxed into a strange warmth. He sneezed fire. Elsa laughed. "You'll get used to it." Over the next few days, she guided him through a tour of human cuisine. He watched with scientific horror and reluctant fascination. Humans eating dishes that steamed, smoked, and sizzled. Flames licking at pans. People smiling through tears as they devoured food so volatile it needed warning labels. At a small street market, a man handed Zixthar a skewer of bright red peppers. Ghost pepper curry, the vendor said proudly. Zixthar's sensors screamed chemical alarm. He declined politely. Elsa and Jixen, however, ate without hesitation. Sweat poured down Elsa's face. Jixen's speech modulator glitched into static. They laughed through the pain. You celebrate pain, Zixthar said quietly. You have ritualized suffering. Elsa wiped her eyes. We call it flavor. Each day, Zixthar's understanding shifted. He saw humans eating peppers named after death and apocalypse. He saw contests where people cheered as one competitor temporarily lost vision. And afterward, they hugged, laughed, and ordered another round. He recorded notes in his log. Species, human, behavioral anomaly, seeks pain for pleasure. Possible evolutionary advantage, emotional resilience through controlled suffering. At night, Elsa took him to a rooftop cafe overlooking a glowing city. The air shimmered with the scent of roasted chilies. Zixthar looked out over the lights and murmured, Your planet burns even when it sleeps. Elsa smiled. That's how we survive. We keep the fire inside. For the first time, he understood. It wasn't recklessness. It was mastery. Where other species fled from danger, humans had learned to taste it. On the final day of his visit, Elsa handed him a small bottle. Inside swirled a crimson liquid that seemed to pulse with energy. Carolina Reaper sauce, she said. World's hottest. Consider it a souvenir. Zixthar held the bottle like it was a fragment of a star. And people eat this? Every weekend, Elsa replied. He nodded slowly. Perhaps your species is not merely adapted to pain. Perhaps you have evolved to find beauty in it. When he returned to his shuttle, he looked back at Earth one last time. A world of storms, oceans, and fire. A death planet by every known standard. And yet, somehow, the most alive world he had ever seen. He whispered to himself, They do not fear the flame. They feast on it. As the engines lifted him into orbit, he glanced at the bottle glowing softly in his hand. The liquid shimmered like captured sunlight. He smiled, the first true Velconian smile of his life. Maybe, he thought, the galaxy needed to taste a little fire. Word of Professor Zixthar's pilgrimage spread across the stars. Every network replayed the footage of him walking through human markets, sweating under neon lights, taking cautious bites of food that smoked and hissed. The galaxy stared in disbelief. The very professor who once warned of human toxins was now eating them. On Velcon Prime, the science authority demanded an explanation. On Thraxia, street vendors began advertising authentic human flavor. And on the Zoltari homeworld, scientists decided to take the next logical step. If humans could find pleasure in pain, perhaps others could too. The Zoltari were a species of amphibious philosophers. They could taste color, smell sound, and sense magnetic fields on their tongues. To them, experience was sacred. So when they heard about the human spice, they saw it not as food, but as enlightenment. Their first experiment was simple. Dilute human capsaicin with liquid nitrogen. Serve it as a beverage. Name it the human kiss. 8 volunteers gathered in a crystal chamber. They raised their shimmering glasses in reverence. 1 sip, and the universe broke open. 3 claimed to see the edges of reality. 2 began speaking in binary code. 1 attempted to legally marry a pepper. The rest cried tears of joy. The next day, the experiment's footage went viral. Galactic feeds overflowed with reaction clips. Beings from 50 worlds whispered, The humans have found a way to make pain holy. Across the stars, the words, Earth Spicy, appeared on menus. Restaurants began advertising heat levels as acts of courage. Signs read, Survive the human heat, and earn your place among the brave. Zixthar watched it all from his lab in quiet astonishment. What began as fear had become fascination. And fascination was spreading faster than science could explain. He recorded a message for his colleagues. I once believed capsaicin was poison, but now I see it as the purest metaphor for humanity. They do not avoid discomfort. They harness it. They turn pain into identity. Jixen floated beside him. Professor, the council wishes to meet. They want you to explain the cultural outbreak. Zixthar sighed. Cultural outbreak. That's one word for it. He looked down at the bottle of Carolina Reaper sauce that Elsa had given him. Its crimson light reflected in his crystalline skin. It was more than a condiment now. It was a symbol. He packed his samples, sealed his research logs, and set course for the next galactic summit. He would not return in disgrace this time. When his shuttle touched down, the port swarmed with reporters. Questions shouted from every angle. Professor, is it true you've joined the human cult of heat? Do you condone toxic cuisine? What is the purpose of pain? Zixthar answered none of them. He walked through the flashing lights and murmured to Jixen. They still don't understand. This is not about food. This is about evolution. Inside the summit hall, nervous delegates whispered as he passed. Security scanners now checked for contraband condiments. Every attendee signed a liability waiver before entering. No samples, no sauces, no exceptions. Zixthar stepped to the podium. The crowd went silent. He placed the bottle of Reaper sauce on the stand. Its glow lit the room like a captured star. 1 year ago, I warned you about a dangerous plant, he began. I said it could kill in seconds. But humanity has shown me something astonishing. This is not death. This is destiny. Murmurs rippled through the hall. Zixthar continued. Pain, when understood, becomes power. Humanity does not fear the fire. They master it. They consume it. And through that act, they remind us that survival is not about avoidance. It is about adaptation. The chamber filled with uneasy silence. Then the doors opened. Elsa Martinez and Jixen entered, pushing a small cart. Lunch break, Elsa said cheerfully. The delegates recoiled in alarm. On the cart sat tacos, curries, and a gleaming tub of Carolina Reaper ice cream. The air shimmered with spice. Zixthar smiled. Friends, today we transcend fear. Today, we dine like humans. He took a bite of a taco drenched in habanero sauce. The room gasped. His crystalline surface flushed to a vivid magenta. His translator crackled. Then he laughed. It burns, he said, voice shaking. It hurts. And yet, it is glorious. Around him, chaos erupted. Delegates shouted, some fleeing, others stepping forward. A Thraxian warrior tasted a drop and declared himself reborn. A Corvallian elder fainted mid-bite. A Zoltari began singing. The cameras caught every second. The moment went viral before the summit even ended. By the time Zixthar stepped down from the podium, the galaxy was already on fire. The galaxy could not stop burning. Not from war, not from hatred, but from flavor. The summit's chaos became legend overnight. Clips of aliens weeping, laughing, and fainting from human food flooded every data channel. Someone edited it to music. Someone else made it a challenge. And within a week, the universe had a new obsession. Spice. On the outer colonies of Proxima Centauri, miners took shots of Sriracha 9000 before every shift. They called it proof of toughness. On the leisure world of Yelth Prime, the wealthy held private, human spice experiences, where they paid to cry and scream over flaming food. And on Velcon Prime, young scholars traded pepper seeds in secret, symbols of freedom and rebellion. The United Earth government released a statement. We thank the galactic community for embracing our culture. Please note that consumption of human-grade spice products is entirely at one's own risk. Refunds not available. Markets exploded. Entire industries were born overnight. Pirates smuggled sauces across borders. The Scoville scale became a galactic unit of bravery. Leaders began to say, if you can't take the heat, you can't lead. Zixthar watched from his quiet lab on Velcon Prime. He had become a hero. His book, From Toxin to Taste, Understanding Humanity's Culinary Paradox, was required reading in xenobiology and diplomacy alike. He no longer spoke with fear in his voice, only admiration. When students asked him what changed his mind, he smiled, a gentle ripple of light across his glass-like skin. They taught me that survival is not just endurance, he said softly. It is appetite. Years passed. The galaxy adapted. Every standard cycle, on the anniversary of that infamous summit, the Galactic Assembly gathered for the Festival of Fire. Delegates arrived from every world, each bringing their own version of spicy. Velconians offered molten crystal soup. Thraxians poured blue flame nectar. The Corvallians brought pepper resin delight. And humanity, of course, supplied the sauces. The hall shimmered with laughter and nervous excitement. The first toast rose through the air. To pain, someone shouted. To pleasure, another answered. And then a third voice echoed, clear and strong. To the humans, who taught us that danger can be delicious. A hologram of Professor Zixthar appeared at the center of the hall. His recorded voice resonated through the chamber. Sometimes, the universe's greatest dangers are best served with extra sauce. Cheers erupted. Laughter filled the air. Across the hall, dozens of species dipped chips into salsa, bracing for the burn. And when it hit, they smiled through the tears. On a small blue world far away, farmers harvested red peppers under a hot sun, unaware that their humble crop had reshaped the galaxy's history. Zixthar's words lingered across time and space. Pain, when understood, becomes power. Fire, when embraced, becomes life. The galaxy had tasted human courage, and it would never be the same again. The universe, they said, would forever remember the day it learned that humans eat pain for breakfast. And so, the legend spread. From the quiet farms of Earth to the farthest edges of the stars, every world now remembers the lesson humans brought with them. That pain can be joy, that heat can be art, that fire, when shared, can unite even the coldest of hearts. In every corner of the cosmos, from the grandest palaces to the humblest outposts, someone somewhere lifts a piece of food to their lips, feels the burn, and smiles. Because on that day, the universe didn't just learn about spice. It learned about humanity, the species that saw danger and decided to taste it. The day the galaxy tasted fire. The day humans taught the stars what flavor really means.